This is absolutely Essendon, the Bombers YouTube fan channel that knows that winning ugly is still winning, but we'll overthink it anyway. It's our Kangaroos game review. The Bombers stumbling over the line by 4 points. I think it was 3 points, was it? 9-11 to 9-8. Was that right?
That's 3 points.
We have a lot to discuss. There were some nasty injuries in that game, including that of our captain Zach Merrett with a sore back from yet again carrying this side over the line. Let's not muck around today. So there you have it. We have extended our run against North Melbourne. I think, is that 12 wins in a row? It goes back about, 8 years?
9. I think it's 9 years.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow. So where's
12
them?
wins, yeah.
Where to them like Geelong is to us?
Yeah.
Hey?
True.
The last couple of occasions.
I'd love to get within 3 points of Geelong, and occasionally.
Yeah. Well, that is a fair point. Wow, what an interesting game. It started one way and ended another. How shocked were you on the shockometer?
Well, it was like Melbourne's weather, wasn't it? You know, it's sort of, you had sun in the morning, cool breeze coming through in the early to late afternoon, and then it's pissing down by the evening. It was just everything happened in that game, and not all of it was good. But the first part of it was amazing. Oh. I can't recall a game like it, honestly, where you've just gone, finally, here's the game where we're going to put someone to the sword.
That first quarter, it was like Bombers 2000.
It was.
It was.
Oh, yep, sorry.
It was just beautiful to watch. It was enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, for a moment there, I thought Will Setterfield was Mark McCurry. Yeah, I thought Jade Gresham was Boris Buick.
Yeah.
You know, they were just playing incredible football and taking risks, taking on the opposition.
Cutting through the corridor. Working the angles.
Yeah, they looked amazing.
Efficient in disposal. Yeah, I just thought, it's just all been a bad dream.
Yeah.
That was never us. Purgatory is over.
Archie Perkins.
Wiping my eyes.
Looking like Dustin Martin.
He was.
Could go on. And, the Dons absolutely got out to a fantastic start when actually you were kind of expecting it to be the other way around, given the heat that was on North Melbourne through the week.
Given our slow starts, put those two together.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was by far and away our best first quarter of the year. But I think on that point, North are also the team that concedes the most points in opposition points in the first quarter. So we certainly took advantage of that. But but it changed, right? It changed dramatically. And I don't know about you, but I know this is a terrible thing to say, but I guess that's the being an Essendon supporter does this to you. But I honestly thought, even though we had a 6-goal first quarter, I just sort of knew that, this ain't going to last. This ain't going to last. And I guess we're so scarred, aren't we, that's the typical response. What did you think?
Yeah, no, there was no getting comfortable.
No.
I mean, before the game, I thought it would go down to within 6 points. But possibly their way.
Yeah.
Not being negative, just realistic. But then even with that lead, I was waiting for them to come because it just seemed... we were dominating, but again, how you just explained, we just know that something happens. It's like when we get... It's that margin of 25 to 28 points. There's something about it. It's like a siren call for the opposition.
Yeah, I if there was an academic amongst our community,
I think there's a few.
Okay, well, well, if there was, someone can do the research, because I'd love to know how many times in the last, say, 5 to 10 years, we've got out to a 25 to 30 point lead and had that whittled away to end up having a nail-biting finish. Either we win or the other side wins by a small margin. I reckon there's been plenty of those. And again, in the game versus North, yeah, we get a lead, we look comfortable, something happens. And I don't know whether this is just in the DNA or it's a coaching flaw, there's a lack of leadership on the field, but something happens. And this is not about being negative and I want to get to the positive, negative stuff, but this is a fact.
Yeah.
This is a reality.
Yeah.
And it happened again. And I don't know. I mean, we can keep on saying till the cows come home, well, they're a young team, that's going to happen. But it just happens way too often. And it's been happening with Essendon for a long, long time. We just seem to lack that ability to go into a halftime break knowing we've got the game in the bag.
But you guys just don't accept you're a bottom 4 team.
Well, look, that may well be the case this year, and certainly let's be realistic. What we watched last night was not an advertisement for Australian football. I think it was a pretty average standard game. Both teams, they look like bottom 4 teams, to be perfectly fair. And, that's what it ended up being, a close game between two sides that are in the same kind of space, the same kind of premiership window, if you want to put it in those terms. We did well in the end to beat a side that's got a really good bunch of young kids and a couple of very good established players such as LDU and Sherry. Sheasel's a younger guy, but definitely. And Larky.
Yes, yeah, he's got a few years under his belt.
And Zuha also had some impact in that game. So they've got some pretty good sort of experienced players. So let's not take the win lightly. I know there was a lot that wasn't great about it, but it nevertheless was a win, and the 4 points are a valuable 4 points.
Definitely. But speaking of leadership on the field, our captain, do you remember that there was a bad movie in the 90s called Multiplicity, where a guy just finds he doesn't have enough time, he's not doing enough, so he clones himself.
Okay.
It felt like there were 4 of him on the field.
Was that
Michael Keaton?
Michael Keaton.
Yeah. Multiplicity.
You're not a fan of Michael Keaton.
No one is. But, he's getting work.
Carved out a career, though, didn't he?
He's made a big career.
Yeah.
No, he's all right.
Yeah.
Anyway, but how many? Honestly, how much ground did Zach Merrett cover, especially in that last quarter?
Do you know Burke and Wills? About that much ground.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Zach came back from his expedition.
Yeah, he was everywhere.
He was. I mean, he bagged another 3 Brownlow votes in this game. I'm pretty sure he'll get the 3 votes.
Yeah.
North had a couple of pretty decent players as well, but Merritt had the most impact of any player on the field, I felt.
Who was the highest rated?
I think it was Sheasel, actually.
Oh, well, maybe he won't.
Getting a lot of his sheezies. But, I mean, Merritt, look, it's almost like we're like a broken record talking about Merritt.
Yeah. It's boring. We can't keep doing it. People are getting nosebleeds from listening to us talk about Zach Merrett
he was
effusively again.
He was interviewed a couple of times after the game, immediately after the game by Beck Madden on the ground, and then in the change rooms with Nick Revolt and Hamish. And, he's expressing this passion he has for the club and his dedication to his art. The guy watches 5 or 6 games of footy a week, and he's driven to watch what the great players are doing and always wanting to pick up a little, learning, if I can use that famous John Worsfold term. So Zach was arguably the difference between us winning and losing again. But I think he had some friends in the game. I think there's a few guys that are worth
acquaintances.
That did pretty well. I don't know if you want to go through that now, or we can come to that later.
Well, it was interesting that Will Setterfield rated pretty high, because often the community can be mixed on Setterfield. But I think he does a lot of valuable stuff, and I think that's shown.
He had 9 tackles in this game.
In the ratings, and we needed them.
Look, I think Setterfield's locked his place in the side. There's going to be a bit of a challenge coming up in the next few weeks when guys like Caldwell and Parrish are fit. Can we have a team where you've got Hobbs, Durham, Caldwell, Parrish, Sartis, Setterfield, Merritt, all in the same side? Probably
I think not.
Probably not. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out once we start to get a few of these injured guys back. But yeah, Setterfield was really good. Sorry, go on.
No.
I was just going to. If we're on the matter of better players, I really want to talk about Peter Wright because I don't know whether he kicked a goal. Did he kick a goal?
No.
Right, he didn't. But I reckon he was extremely important in the last quarter.
Yeah.
When the game was up for grabs, he just took a few clunking marks out.
He did.
Really stood up tall
those
for us.
Hands those hands that we have maligned.
Right. Well, Peter, again, challenge is going to be at a point in time when we have all of our players available, whether there's a space in the side for him, plus 2 ruckmen, which Brad Scott likes to play with, Caddy, these taller players. We would be very tall if we had him playing with all of them. But as it stands, we don't have those ruckmen, so there's a place for him.
Yes.
But it would be hard to see how you would let him go in his current form.
But we'll get onto the ruck again. But the 2 Dursma, Durham,
okay.
Paul Durham, both did very well. Archie Roberts was great again. So was Zach Reed, Mason Redman. Did okay.
Yeah, Redmond was all right. I think he was better.
Yeah.
But, I think, Reed's been a phenomenal player. I think he's got to be our most improved player this year so far. And thank goodness he's staying fit. But, there's going to be a big challenge now with that defence with, of course, Jordan Ridley going off not long before half-time with a hamstring, which I understand is unrelated to any previous injury. So he's pretty much got the full house now. I think he's had a quad injury on both left and right legs, hamstring on the left, and now he's got a hamstring on the right.
Oh God! Really?
There's clearly some bad DNA in his soft tissues. He went to Qatar over the off season to meet with some guru on management of muscle injuries.
Right,
hasn't helped.
No,
you're getting my money back.
Yeah, it seems to have had the opposite effect. Let's hope. So what are they saying? 8 to 10 weeks?
Oh well, it's an Essendon hamstring. It could be forever.
Okay.
Look, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we've had any updates as of the recording of this show as to the severity of it, but you'd think he'd be handled very carefully.
Now, Harry Jones, that was a nasty, nasty injury. Gosh, those ones are hard to watch. He looked like he was in all sorts of pain sitting up against that boundary fence. There
was a video of it on Twitter, and there was a warning label over the top of it saying graphic content. So if you've seen the footage, it definitely isn't something you'd want to watch whilst eating. His foot points towards the South Pole when his face is pointing towards the north. But he looked forlorn on that. That was terrible to see him pressed up against the fence on the boundary line, holding his leg up and looking utterly forlorn. And let's just hope he's okay. I think it's a dislocation, as opposed to a break. But look, a dislocation.
You can dislocate your ankle.
Well, clearly, clearly.
Jesus.
But from what I understand, even without surgery, it's a 6 to 12 week recovery. But with surgery and depending on the severity of it, it could be 6 to 12 months.
Gee.
So there's a very, very real chance we won't see Harry again this year, which is a shame. I mean, I know he's got a few detractors out there, but he's been performing a role, and of course, no one wants to see a player go out with an injury like that. So,
no, right. And what about Gresham? Just quickly, while we're covering
Gresham, I believe, is an adductor tightness of the adductor muscle, which is sort of related to the groin. And if that's the case, he might miss a couple of weeks. That's sort of similar to the long-term injury that Joe Danaher had, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Is there a silver lining to all this? What can we draw from it? What could possibly happen?
Not losing Ridley, of course, but I guess you could mount an argument that Jones and Gresham were both sort of struggling to really have any impact.
Yeah.
And sadly, their injuries is going to be for someone else an opportunity, and not sadly. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
I think. I know you're not meaning silver lining literally, but I think there is now a chance to bring some of the younger guys through. It's really whether Brad Scott's got the the appetite to do what he normally does not like doing, and that is, bringing in the younger players just for the sake of it. I mean, if he does it, it tends to be because it's forced. So we'll see how we go with that.
No, you're right. Silver lining's the wrong term, but you know what I mean. It's sort of like
just in case the negative people come at you.
It's a sliding door for potentially something else happening.
Well, look,
someone else coming into the side, maybe sooner than what they would have.
You and I were talking about Lewis Hayes the other day, and how we couldn't quite imagine how Lewis Hayes was going to get a selection into the senior side, because with McKay, Ridley and Reid all playing, reasonably well, maybe McKay not so much, but we know he's not going anywhere. It was hard to imagine how Lewis Hayes could get an opportunity in the senior side. Well, that opportunity's arrived. Now, here's the test for Brad Scott. Is he going to pick Lewis Hayes, or is he going to do a classic Brad Scott on us and pick Laverde? So I think Laverde is finishing his. He was suspended in the VFL, but I think that's over this week.
Right.
So he should be available, if I'm not mistaken, for selection. And Brad Scott's going to be going, Laverde. So we'll see. But I'd love to see Lewis Hayes get his chance, and this could be it.
Doesn't Laverde? He adds a bit of toughness though in that.
Well, I mean that's going to be the thing, right? Scott's going to go. Let's go the experience option. But I would definitely be thinking now's the time to give Lewis Hayes a chance.
Yeah, righto. Okay, all right. So then we had a very busy game for Nate Caddy. Not always choosing the right options, but did well. 2 goals, 3. Likes to be in and amongst it, as we talked about the week before. Kako also busy as well. Had one moment there where his captain expressed a little displeasure, but understandable.
Yeah, that great run through the midfield. He sort of burst through the centre 50 square with a couple of bounces, and he just so the eyes lit up. And I don't know whether he was actually trying to kick the goal or was he? He wasn't passing it to Merrett, was he? There was no question about that.
Well, based on Anzac Day when he was going for goal, and he kind of went sideways. Maybe he was trying to.
Look, I think you want to just let a kid like that just do what he does. Unleash him, let him go. He'll learn from that. I'm sure Zach would have said something to him during the game. He certainly made it clear from the television replay that he wasn't happy. But I thought Caddy and Kako again. I know those two are going to probably play their whole careers being mentioned in the same breath. But I thought both of them were really good. They still haven't really had that incredible breakout game yet, but they contribute and they are relentless. They're like dogs at a bone. And I thought Caddy getting up and down the ground, presenting himself as often as he possibly could was fantastic. And when Kako gets near the ball, something seems to happen. So he's that kind of player that when he gets his hands on it, something happens. And it's an exciting prospect because as he becomes more and more experienced, he's going to get his hands on the ball more and more often. So I was really encouraged by their performance against North Melbourne.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now let's talk about ruck, because Todd Goldstein doing his level best, but it was a rough night at the office. Looking forward, we face the Swans next, but it is still fairly early in the season. We're low in ruck stocks. So he seems to be running out of gas. Would that be a fair call?
Well, he looked exhausted at the sort of 3-quarter break against North. He got monstered. Let's not hide that. He was given a hiding by Cherry, however it's said.
As in not Port, Sherry.
Yeah, but the mere fact that he stayed out there and he just provided us with something. Credit to the man. He's nearly 37 years old. So, but next week against the Swans, look, he's not going to get a rest. Is there an argument that young Vigo Vicentini would be just as effective up against Brodie Grundy, given that Goldstein can barely get through the game? I don't know. I think you still want to have Goldstein going up against Grundy. I don't think it's the right game to bring Vicentini in. So
I'd agree. You probably go the experience.
I think that Brad Scott's going to favour that selection over perhaps an untried young ruckman.
Yeah. on that point, I didn't see the press conference. Did you see Brad Scott? What did he have to say after the game?
Well, a lot of it was about the injuries, of course, and the challenges that presented. And another reason to be pretty satisfied with the win is that we were down to one or two guys on the bench in the last quarter. So he was applauding the team for being able to adjust to that challenge.
Yeah,
and they did actually in the end have the strength of character and the wherewithal to hold up against a pretty committed North Melbourne side. But the other thing, just though, and you may have seen this, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on it, is the umpire made a bit of a mistake in, was it the last quarter?
Yeah, it was. It was in the last quarter.
Just out of from the goals. Was it,
North goals. It was about 20 metres out. Yeah. And I still don't understand what the call was that he then overruled. Well, it was overruled. Someone talking in his ear, I just heard.
The whistle was blown.
Yes, it was.
And then the North player just sort of fresh air kicked the ball out, or air kicked the ball, flew away off, his boot. Umpire blows a whistle and awards a free kick to North Melbourne. Because when the ball is dead, the whistle's been blown for a ball up. The ball's got to be handed directly back to the umpire. You can't pass it to another player to give it to the umpire. So it's a free kick. It's an automatic free kick to the opposition, except in this case, he awarded the free kick to against Essendon in favour of North Melbourne, despite the fact that it was the North Melbourne player that kicked the ball out. And you would have seen the Essendon players
remonstrating.
It was almost like a European or Premier League soccer match where the players all sort of gather around the umpire and get in his face. But in the end, he's going to his earpiece going, "Oh, look, I'm being told.
Do you think he was, or was just fresh air, tumbleweed in the earpiece, and he just thought, oh, hang on,
well,
we stuffed up
here's
there.
the thing. Who's telling him? Because according to the AFL, the umpires receive no feedback from the umpire's coaching box during the play. Right. They only get it at the breaks.
That is right.
And it would seem to me that he was getting that advice from the umpire's coach. The way he goes, look, I'm getting it, whatever he said, but it just seemed to sound like he was getting that from somewhere. But here's the deal. If the umpire was given the advice that it was in fact the North Melbourne player that kicked the football, the free kick should have gone to Essendon.
Yes.
But he balled it up.
Yes. That's true.
I think he was embarrassed, and in the heat of the moment, he didn't realise that, hey, look, I've got to give the free kick to Essendon.
Let me just fix this. Do you think there really is someone up in a box talking to them throughout the game?
I have that right now.
Yeah. Do you? Yeah, right.
Simon up in the...
Wrap it up, boys. Yeah. You just stop dragging
this
out.
No, there's no question they have that.
Right.
There's no one disputing that.
Yeah.
But the issue is that we've been told that the umpires are not being coached during play.
Right.
It's only at the breaks, half time, quarter time, 3/4 time.
So there should be an investigation.
Well, it's. I'm sure it'll. AFL House will just sweep it under.
They'll sweep it under.
I mean, it was a strange thing, and it just sort of brings to the fore. Some of the umpiring is pretty average in this game at the moment.
I reckon sometimes there is someone up there going, "Hey, listen, the free kicks are out of whack. Can you just give a few to?"
Well, we were definitely getting the benefit of that.
We got the rub of the green last night. I'm not saying last night, but just other occasions when things are out of balance. They always seem to come out in the second half and just the first few free kicks. It's always the other team. Don't you find? Or am I just imagining that?
Actually, it's interesting. You asked about Brad Scott's press conference. One of the things he did talk about was these tackles where the player is being sort of spun around and then, thrown to the ground.
Yeah, right.
And there's a lot of discussion in the AFL around this and the potential for that to cause injury.
Yep.
But, it happened a lot in the game against North Melbourne where players were being tackled, and you could kind of see that, regardless of whether they were a North Melbourne or an Essendon player, they didn't quite know how to finish it. Because, of course, if you don't put the player on the ground, he's going to get the ball away. And so, this is the problem. I don't think the players are really quite sure what to do. Do I tackle this guy and throw him to the ground, which is the best way to stop the ball being disposed of? Or do I kind of spin him around and just hope that that's enough to get a free kick? There's just so much confusion around that rule. And, of course, through the week, last week, the North Melbourne player was suspended for 3 weeks for that tackle, which was a ridiculous decision.
Joke. That was a joke. Yeah. And honestly, I'm telling you, the game does need a bit of redesigning. No one wants to acknowledge that. But it does. Is that enough waffle?
I think so.
Have we done enough? Okay. All right. Enough with the waffle. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back very, very soon. Bye for now.
See ya. Bye.